What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got the Arizona Cardinals have one big problem. Let's check this out.
The Arizona Cardinals finished the 2024 season with an 8-9 record and missed the playoffs for the third time in 4 years and the 8th time in the last 9 years. But
they had a good drive, though.
The playoffs last year, the Cardinals had a lot of positive things to take away from the 2024 season.
The one biggest thing they needed, bro, was obviously D-line. You know what I'm saying? They signed Josh Sweat. They brought Calais Campbell back, you know what I'm saying? They drafted Walter Nolan, but they also really needed corner, bro. And they got two really good ones, bro. In my opinion, Denzel Burke was probably one of my most underrated corners heading into this draft class, bro. And then Will Johnson was my CB1 and ended up falling to the second round, mainly because of injury concerns. And, you know, I think they were concerns about his speed and his short arms, but I think Will Johnson, bro, he gonna ball out 100%.
Point difference, despite finishing 8-9, they
still crazy fell to the second round, bro.
Moving forward, as they finished second in the entire NFL in yards per carry, and they even swept the division rival San Francisco 49ers. But it was not all sunshine and rainbows for this team, as they started out 6-4 and were in a prime position to win the NFC West and make the playoffs, only to lose 5 of their final 7 games and not only miss the playoffs, but end up with a losing record. Now, full transparency, I like everything the Arizona Cardinals are doing, and I believe they are doing mostly everything right from a process standpoint in terms of how to build a franchise. But heading into the 2025 season, I have one big concern for the Cardinals, and in today's video we're going to break down what that concern is, how we got to where we are today, and everything in between. And there is a lot to break down in today's video, and without further ado, let's begin.
Alright.
And we are starting today's video by discussing what Cardinals general manager Monty Ossenfort and head coach Jonathan Gannon have done since taking over back in 2023. And whenever teams hire new general managers and coaches, I think one of the biggest things that has to be remembered is where each guy came from. And in Ossenfort's case, he was with the Titans from 2020 through 2022, and Gannon was with the Eagles in 2021 and 2022. And one of the common themes with the Titans and Eagles during this time period was both teams like to run the football and play good defense. And obviously the Titans were on a downward trajectory as Ossenfort was leaving, as they traded A.J. Brown to, ironically, Gannon's Eagles during the 2022 draft. And
Still
I do think it's safe to say Ossenfort left at the perfect time. The reason we bring this up is because both of those organizations prioritize trench play, and that's what we've seen with the Cardinals since Ossenfort and Gannon were hired. And in terms of a collaboration of how each guy's mind operates with how they want to build their football team, I don't think there's many duos that are on the same page the way I believe Ossenfort and Gannon are with each other and with every football decision. And this started with the selection of Ohio State offensive tackle Paris Johnson back in 2023. And through 2 years, Paris has been a really good tackle, and he improved significantly from his rookie season to his second season, and I legitimately believe he is their left tackle of the future. But why I also believe in the vision of the Arizona Cardinals is because I don't think this team panics when they're on the clock, and they have a really well thought out process with their draft board and how everything plays out. And during the 2023 draft, they traded back with the Texans, who were coming off of a terrible season in 2022, and acquired their 2024 first-round pick so they could go up and get Will Anderson. And I remember thinking at the time that there was a real chance Arizona would have 2 top 10 or 12 selections in the 2024 draft, because I didn't think Houston would have that good of a season in 2023. Now, I was wrong about that, but the process to trade back and to acquire another first-round pick for moving back 9 spots was still very good, and one I 100% agree with. And even in the second round of 2023, when Will Levis dropped, the Cardinals traded back a couple of spots to acquire a third-round pick in 2024, and eventually drafted LSU pass rusher B.J. Ojulari. Loved him coming out of LSU, and unfortunately he tore his ACL prior to the 2024 season starting.
Damn.
And unfortunately, that is a reality of football, is injury. I hope B.J. Ojulari comes back and plays at a high level in 2025 and beyond, because I really do think he has a lot of potential. But to go back to the origins of each guy in charge in Ossenfort and Gannon, it's not a coincidence the first 2 picks of this era were both used on trench players. Although third-year receiver Michael Wilson is obviously not a trench player, he is a high-effort guy and a player who is not afraid to run block and do the dirty work, and that's the type of football players coaches love. And
I think one thing the Cardinals need, bro, is another receiver. Like, Michael Wilson, he's solid, but they need a true number 2 receiver behind MHJ. Whether it's Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper, you know what I'm saying? Go out and get another weapon, bro, because those two are not going to cut it. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone knew,
and it'll take a lot of pressure off of MHJ with double teams.
Because Kyler Murray tore his ACL so late in the 2022 season. He tore his ACL in Week 14 of 2022.
Hey, don't get me started on Kyler Murray, bro. You already know what I'm about to say.
And both Gannon and Ozenfort knew 2023 was going to be a long year because they knew they weren't going to have their franchise quarterback for a good portion of their first season, and knew that the 2023 draft was going to be one where they needed to raise the floor of the franchise and to draft with a long-term vision in mind, and they did exactly that. Now, not surprisingly, the Cardinals did not have a good record in 2023, and to at least be fair to Arizona, I would not expect them or anyone to have a good record when your starting quarterback misses the first 9 games of the year. Really, in the best case scenario, you're hoping for maybe a 3-6, maybe 4-5 start if your starting quarterback goes down, and then at that point, you almost have to win out or at worst lose 1 game the rest of the way just to get into the dance, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for Arizona, and again, I wasn't expecting a lot from them heading into the 2023 season. But for the Cardinals organization to move on from Steve Keim and to be able to bring in Monty Ozenfort and Jonathan Gannon along with that, with the situation they were in, knowing that Kyler was going to miss a good chunk of the 2023 season, was a big win for them. And again, I cannot praise their thought process for what they did in the 2023 draft enough, and ultimately what they did in the 2024 draft. They had 8 selections in the top 104, and they selected my number 1 overall player in the class in Marvin Harrison Jr., and that was a pre-draft ranking, by the way. And they also selected guys like Darius Robinson, Max Melton, and one of my personal favorite players, Trey Benson, the running back from Florida State, who did not have a big impact in his rookie year, though I certainly expect him to have a much bigger impact in 2025.
You know, they still got James Conner. I feel like Trey Benson, his ceiling is high,
as James Conner gets older, as he was drafted all the way back in 2017. Throughout this video, we've talked a lot about what the Cardinals have done right from a process standpoint since letting go of Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim at the end of the 2022 season, and since they brought in Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ozenfort. And to be clear, the good far outweighs the bad with what the Cardinals have done from a process standpoint in the past 2 years. And I credit Monty Ozenfort for having a lot more hits than he does misses. But the one big thing as to why I think the Cardinals are going to be a limited team moving forward is the inconsistency of Kyler Murray. Kyler will have a game or 2 a year, and he had one against the Rams in Week 2, in which he had just 4 incompletions and had 3 passing touchdowns.
Yeah,
in which the Cardinals.
This what I've been saying, bro. Kyler Murray, like, I feel like he's a good quarterback in my opinion. He's a good quarterback, but he is too inconsistent. Like, real stuff. He'll have a game where he'll throw for like 300 yards, maybe like 3 or 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he'll have a game where he throw for like 100 yards, 2 picks, and 1 touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Kyler is just too inconsistent. And I feel like if he has another year like that, I could definitely see him getting traded, cut, or anything. You know what I'm saying? Because, in my opinion, bro, like, I don't even think Kyler's even got a playoff win yet. So, he better step up and go crazy this year. And they better help him out, too, by getting another weapon. Because if Kyler doesn't ball out, we definitely having that conversation about him getting traded, bro. 100%.
31 points, and he looked like an MVP candidate in that game. That was also the Marvin Harrison 4-reception, 130-yard, 2-touchdown game for anyone wondering.
Yeah.
Kyler will then have a streak of 14 games like he did during the 2024 season, where he averages just 227 passing yards per game and has just 13 touchdowns to 11 interceptions in the ensuing 14 games, and the Cardinals go 6-8 in the process, and ultimately were not good enough to make the playoffs this past year. Now, it was a bit of a funky year where there were several teams that had 11-plus wins, and there were 2 14-plus win teams in the conference, and there were also 2 10-plus win teams in the NFC West. So I will give the Cardinals a little bit of a pass for not making the playoffs this year, but ultimately when it mattered most, when the Cardinals
Seahawks didn't even make it with
10, they were 6-4 heading into the bye, and then they got swept by the Seahawks in 2 of the first 3 games coming off of the bye, which set the tone for the remainder of the season. The only 2 wins they had in the final 7 games were a 30-17 win over the Patriots, who have since fired Gerard Mayo, and a win over the 49ers in Week 18 that was ultimately meaningless because the 49ers started Josh Dobbs, and the Cardinals entering that game were 7-9 and were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And the main reason that I bring up the Week 2 game against the Rams, in which he had 3 passing touchdowns to just 4 incompletions, and ultimately the Week 18 game against the Niners, in which he had 4 passing touchdowns and the Cardinals put up 47 points, which was by far their season high, is because Kyler had 7 of his 21 passing touchdowns in 2 games. And there was a huge chunk where he was not a bad player necessarily, but he was not the player that they paid a couple of off seasons ago, and that's where my concern lies with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals entering 2025. And for reference, the 47 points the Cardinals scored in Week 18 was a significant outlier relative to who they were for the other 16 games, and really 15 if you want to exclude the Rams game, though I do want to give proper credit because they played their tails off in Week 2 against the Rams. But that 47-point outburst in Week 18 against the 49ers really propelled them up in points per game, as they finished 12th in points per game last year, and if they had their average, which was weeks 1 through 17, that was around 22 points per game. If they scored 22 points in that game instead of 47, or maybe even 23 or 24, they would have finished 16th or 17th in points per game last year. And I think there's a big difference heading into a new season of, hey, we're coming off of a year in which we finished 12th in points per game versus we were middle of the pack, which is really where we were from weeks 3 through 17 last year, and ultimately having one big outlier game in which we forced multiple turnovers, and credit to Arizona for capitalizing off of those turnovers in Week 18 against a backup quarterback. But the point is, I don't think the Cardinals have that high-end ceiling with Kyler Murray as their starting quarterback, because he will have an outburst of a game or 2 per season and then ultimately be a mediocre quarterback for the remainder of the season. Now, while Kyler Murray being as inconsistent as he is at times,
look at this. No, that's a crazy angle from Spoon though. I ain't gonna lie, but how do you overthrow this? Like, real talk, how do you overthrow that badly?
So does the division the Cardinals play in. From top to bottom, I really think the NFC West is at worst the 3rd best division in football, and again, that's at worst. And the only divisions I think you can argue are better are the NFC North and the AFC West, and again, this is from top to bottom. There is no team in the NFC West where you look at your schedule at the beginning of the year and circle the Cardinals, Rams, 49ers, or Seahawks as an easy win, or a game you think you will comfortably win by a touchdown or more. Now, some teams may have their numbers, but there's
depends on what type of team you got.
Division won 8 games last year, and there's a reason the Rams were the closest.
What the fuck is this frame? What the fuck is this freeze frame, gang? They did Jalen Hurts dirty. I ain't gonna lie. Look like that nigga. That nigga in pain, bro. God damn.
The 2024 playoffs.
What the
Rams
fuck?
Are at a point with Sean McVay.
Where did he even get that picture?
They can start out slow, and as long as they don't lose 7 games and are still in a position where they can win double-digit games, I'm not going to stop believing in them unless there are unforeseen circumstances, like major injuries, for example. And in a lot of ways, I think the Rams and Cardinals are very similar teams. Both teams love to run the football, and both teams specifically over the past few years have really prioritized
one team has
the
a better
trenches,
passing
and it's
attack.
shown. The Rams are coming off of a year in which they look like geniuses, as they selected both Jared Verse and Braden Fisk with their first 2 picks, and all Jared Verse did in his rookie year was finish top 4 in the NFL in pressures, make the Pro Bowl, and win the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. And Braden Fisk had 51 pressures, led the team in sacks with 8.5, forced 2 fumbles, and finished 3rd in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. And I love talking about defensive line play and how teams can dictate games in the trenches, and the Rams are certainly a shining example. And the point of bringing the Rams up is they are a very high-floor team, and being in the same division as the Cardinals genuinely stinks for Arizona, because at this point in time, I do think the Rams are a tier above the Cardinals, and what's really unfortunate for Arizona is they play their final game of the year at SoFi Stadium in LA, and I'll be honest, if it came hell or high water for the NFC West in a Week 18 showdown, I would choose Sean McVay over Jonathan Gannon, and so would a lot of other people. And as we discussed, it's not like the Rams are the only good team in this division. We did a video a few weeks ago on the Seattle Seahawks and how they too are doing a lot of the.
And it's crazy how much disrespect the Seahawks get every year.
I'll be honest, I don't know how much their record will change from 24 to 25, Seattle that is, but their defense is taking a lot of steps in the right direction, and I am also a firm believer in everything Mike Macdonald is doing from a coaching perspective, and he only adds the fuel to the fire that is the NFC West. And
they got a lot of big key pieces on the offseason. Now, we got to see how Sam Darnold performs, though. I'm going to keep it a
because of the year they had in 2024, and given that they are going to go through a roster.
And if Sam Darnold does shit the bed, they already got a backup plan in Jalen Murrow, so I feel like the Seahawks, bro, they got a good ass squad. I could definitely see them winning the division this year. It's between them and the Rams. I feel like that's what it's definitely gonna come down to. Unless the Niners somehow do some miraculous shit, I don't see that. I don't even see the Niners making the playoffs, in my opinion.
It relatively soon, as long as they don't have an injury-filled year like they did last year, and also with tragedy off the field too for not just one but multiple players. I don't think they're going to be a 4 or 5 win team as long as Kyle Shanahan is their head coach. And this isn't to say that, oh, well, let's just throw in the towel before the season starts because our division is going to be really good and we can't stand up against those guys. No, but it is to emphasize just how loaded the NFC West is and to show how much of a bloodbath this division is going to be. And this isn't going to be the same old Cardinals playing at 4:05 Eastern that you just throw on as background noise as they get beat by another NFC West team. This is a really good team in a really competitive division. Now, about 2 weeks ago, we did a video titled 4 head coaches on the hot seat entering the 2025 season, and to a lot of people's surprise, I included Jonathan Gannon within that video. I knew at the time we would do a Cardinals video at a later point, to which we are now discussing the Cardinals situation, and the biggest reason that I included Jonathan Gannon within that video is I think there is a very real reality where the Cardinals finish 7-10 or 8-9 in 2025, not because they don't have a lot of talent, but because of how loaded their division is, and like we saw last year, Kyler Murray folded in a lot of big games. Whether it was the Seahawks game in which he threw 2 first-quarter interceptions that were, in my opinion, pretty inexcusable, as he flat out did not see a defender on the first one, and the second one was a very preventable interception as it was 2nd and 9, and Kyler was under pressure, and he just threw a Hail Mary ball and basically said, please go get the pass, and unfortunately his receiver did not go get the pass, and it set the Seahawks up with an opportunity to have a double-digit lead in the first quarter, and that is exactly what happened. So my biggest fear is that the Cardinals finish 8-9 or 7-10 this year, and at that point, Jonathan Gannon would have a 19-32 or 20-31 record through the first 3 years of his tenure as the Cardinals head coach, and he would also be coming off of 3 straight years in which he did not make the playoffs.
And then another thing, bro,
point, I think there would be a very
like just some coordinators are not built to be head coaches, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like Robert Saleh, great defensive coordinator, but he just, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they did kind of do him dirty with him being the head coach of the Jets, like. You know, the Jets, they're not known for having, you know, good organizations and, you know, just good records and shit like that. But some coordinators are just not made to be a head coach.
Very real conversation.
Sometimes they're just going to be
Jonathan,
a coordinator their whole career.
Doing, but the results are not there, and we're going to have to make a change. Now, full transparency, I hope that is not the case because I do believe in Jonathan Gannon, and I do believe in everything that he's doing as the Cardinals head coach, and that again, both him and Monty Ozenfort are doing everything right from a process standpoint, but the bottom line is I don't believe in Kyler Murray when it matters most.
Facts.
Now, regarding Kyler Murray,
that Rams game, 2021,
guess what?
playoffs.
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow don't have Super Bowl wins either, so do you trust them when it matters? Because that's not what I'm saying.
What do you say?
I don't want to get into the conversation of, well, guess what? Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow don't have Super Bowl wins either.
I'm taking Lamar Jackson over Tom Brady, bro. I'm riding or die behind that nigga. Real shit.
So do you trust them when it matters? Because that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is
gotta have trust in your
QB1,
QB1,
bro. Hostile or as vocal as other fan bases
especially when he's 2-time MVP.
I think at times Kyler's lowlights or mistakes fly under the radar and people kind of dismiss Kyler at times or forget about him, and then you have a 14-game stretch like he had in 2024 where he has just 13 passing touchdowns to 11 interceptions despite being paid north of $45 million per year, and ultimately that's why I don't believe in the Arizona Cardinals as much as I want to. I really like what Monty Ozenfort and Jonathan Gannon have done outside of the quarterback position, mainly because they've been limited since they took over and they knew Kyler Murray was going to be tied to their jobs and that he was going to be their franchise quarterback. But here we are entering year 7 with Kyler Murray, and there's still the inconsistencies that he had as a young player, and if we are entering year 7 with Kyler Murray, I don't think those inconsistencies and regular mistakes he makes are going to go away anytime soon. And we're also at a point where the Cardinals are going to be too good of a team to have a top 4 or 5 pick unless they have an injury-riddled season in which 6 or 7 guys have season-ending injuries, which we of course hope does not happen. So when we look at the future of Kyler Murray in the desert, I personally don't think they should give him a 3rd contract. I think there's a big enough sample size to the point where you can say, hey, Kyler Murray's played over 80 career games, and I definitively do not think
he's upcoming draft, bro, well, next year, do y'all think that the Cardinals draft a quarterback? Like, it all depends on what Kyler does this year, bro, but you got guys like Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Lenore Sellers, maybe Arch Manning, you know what I'm saying, Sam Levitt, Drew Aller. Do you think that, you know what I'm saying, they draft a quarterback to replace Kyler Murray if he doesn't have a good enough season this year? I could definitely see that happening. You know what I'm saying? This is, oh, hold on, let me fix his face, bro. I was doing him dirty. But do y'all think that they replace him, bro? Because this is a talented quarterback class. But it's a talented class in general. But this quarterback draft class, way better than last year. You know what I'm saying? Last year, it was only, you know what I'm saying, 2 first-round quarterbacks. All the guys that I named are potential first-round picks, in my opinion. I think Sam Levitt's the sleeper out of all of them. You know what I'm saying? But there's no true quarterback 1 in this draft class yet. You know what I'm saying? So any one of those guys can go number 1 overall. But we can kind of see the Cardinals drafting the quarterback if Kyler doesn't, you know what I'm saying, ball out this year.
6, 8, or 10 player at the position to the point where we should give him a $55 million per year contract.
That would be crazy.
He's going to lead us to the Super Bowl. I know that's a very difficult decision, but the 2026 draft is absolutely loaded. And at that point, I think the Cardinals would be in a good position to where they have most of the roster filled out. And again, credit to Monty Ozenfort and Jonathan Gannon for filling out the roster the way they have over the past few years to the point where they could trade up from pick 15 or 16 or 18, really into the top 5 or 6, and if they wanted to, sacrifice a future first-round pick so that they can go get their quarterback at the future. But my biggest thing with the Cardinals entering 2025 is I do not trust Kyler Murray enough to the point where I think he elevates this team, and ultimately offensive coordinator Drew Petzing as well, to the point where they're going to be a 12 or 13 win team and win not just one, but multiple playoff. To the point where they're
was that not a legal forward pass?
Team.
It's kind of close.
And win not just one, but multiple playoff games. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like the video as it helps tremendously with the YouTube algorithm, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. We are closing in on 200,000 subscribers, so please subscribe to the channel as well, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.
Hey man, shit. What do y'all think? You know what I'm saying? Y'all think the Cardinals should move on from Kyler Murray? In my opinion, I think this is his last shot. You know, I think this is his last chance to prove that he's a good franchise quarterback. You know what I'm saying? That he's able to win the big game when it matters most. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think he's got a single playoff win yet. So we'll see, bro. But hey, man, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Y'all let me know what other NFL videos I'm going to react to. Without further ado, I'm out.
I'ma make them feel me, make them people when they chow me. And if you don't know me, I'ma make sure that you know me. I hate to say it, but I really think I'm broke. But I know I'm chosen, I really know I'm chosen. I know I'm chosen. I was just lost a year ago, but now I'm focused. When good at sports, this microphone can be my trophy. Not taking drugs, I found a better way of coping.